Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host 𝙒𝙖𝙪. We apologize for the lapse. It was all my fault that we could not bring you DGI on Wednesday. 𝙒𝙬𝙤𝙪 is back today as our co-host, and we are going to talk about some things that are rapidly revealing right now. US markets are under a lot of pressure. One Silicon Valley bank, which is supposed to be the bank that many VCs swear by, is in trouble, and many other things that suggest that all is not well with the United States. So let's welcome our co-host 𝙒𝙬𝙤𝙪. Sridharji, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar. Good morning to everybody, and looking forward to an exciting Friday.
And viewers, please like this video because we are going to give you 6 line items about the United States that will give you a lot of cause for concern. How this Biden administration has bungled its way through this thus far, and it's going to really make your hair stand up. First off, the markets. The markets are down yesterday. They were down yesterday by 500 odd points. Today, they have already, the futures are pointing to a further drop. Sridharji, take it away, sir. What is wrong with the markets now? Is it just a statement by Paul?
It is the statement by Powell on Tuesday to the House Financial Services Committee, and then the Senate House Banking Committee and the Senate Financial Services Committee on effectively saying that we will continue to raise interest rates. Inflation is still rearing its ugly head. So that actually brought the markets to its melting point. The markets are down as we speak for the week, about 3% across all indexes. And good news is bad news in this economy. The employment numbers continue to show strength. 8:30 New York time, we will be having the jobs report. There is apprehension what those jobs report will look like. And if the jobs report still show healthy signs, then the markets fear that the interest rate is going to be, the hikes are going to be maniacal. And so there's consequences in the market. So the markets everything is shifting to the fixed income. The 6 months and 1 year and 2 year treasury notes are now greater than 5%, which means we are looking at a rate of about 6%, core rate of prime rate of 6%, which means you can look at the market lending rate of anything from 8 to 9%. This is what is shaking the markets.
Thank you, Sridharji. And in my days as a startup entrepreneur, I've had many conversations with Silicon Valley Bank. I know them. They know and they understand the risks involved with funding startups. Sridharji, what is the trouble with Silicon Valley Bank?
The trouble with the Silicon Valley Bank is that, as you have seen, in the tech industry has got significant headwinds. So there are three challenges that they're facing. One, the burn rate. That means the cash is leaving the bank. Usually, if you are a company, you raise capital, you put the money into Silicon Valley Bank, and you progressively withdraw as you incur expenses. But because of the high burn rate, what they're witnessing is that there's a high drawdown on the venture side. The second is that there is also client redemptions that is taking place of the deposits. So what triggered the market and the financial question mark is that they sold close to $20 billion worth of bonds at a $1.8 billion loss, which means they needed to have liquidity in terms of meeting the obligations. That's what sent the panic wave. The other point is that they have, I think, close to $200 billion worth of assets and $70 billion of loans, again, given against these ventures on a $350 billion client funds base. But what the concern is that has there been marked down in valuations? There's a markdown in valuations. You may also see more client deposits leaving. This is what is creating a panic, notwithstanding the fact that Silicon Valley Bank is well supported by some of the marquee financial institutions.
Sridharji, let us get back to United States. This is just one aspect of it, and we think that Silicon Valley Bank will recover, perhaps at a slightly lower level, that it will settle down. I don't think there is cause for concern yet, unless there are new revelations. We'll keep you posted, of course. Please like this video because there are many more new things that have not hit the mainstream media that are going to be revealed in the next few minutes. Sridharji, first off, Capital 6 riots. Tucker Carlson has released a new footage, and there are some very disturbing revelations. How much did the Democrats know? How much did they make this thing happen so that they can go and hang the Republicans politically afterwards, sir?
I suggest and request all PGuru viewers to get access to that video and see it for yourself. Kevin McCarthy has just announced that he is going to make this video public. There are four key points that we want to highlight. First and foremost, was there chaos and anarchy inside the Capitol Hill? The answer is no. People were confused and moving around. There was no anarchy. This part of the footage was not shown or was edited, number one. The second is, if you watch the video, you will see that there is a police officer being, moaned about or sympathized about. I think his name is Brian Seidnick. If I am correct, his name is, yes, Brian Sicknick. You will see Brian Sicknick moving around. And you will see, and there is a time delay, but you can see Brian Sicknick in the video moving around, which Tucker Carlson highlights. That's the second part. The third part, which is even more astonishing, is almost like a choreograph that every person, you will even see all the Democrats walking out saying that there is insurrection. You will see the word insurrection being consistently narrated from President Biden to everybody. So it looks like very much a pre-orchestrated play, which is dichotomous with what you actually observed. Then there is a DC police, Capitol DC police officer who was interviewed, who never was interviewed by January 6th panel. And he articulates that there was no prior warning and there was no preparation of what was to come on January 6th. And every one of the police officers acted on their own. Nothing came from the top, and he was not interviewed during by the January 6th committee. So all this has come out, and you can see more and more data is coming out. But I encourage people to see, this is very, very astonishing that the people who have been sent to govern and be the law enforcers and the lawmakers conducting a trial of this magnitude in this 𝙒𝙬𝙤𝙪 manner, and now they are saying dismiss January 6th based on FBI and the video footage.
And viewers, this is something that we've been telling for the last 2 years. Who is really running the Biden administration? Is it the progressives? Is it a group consisting of Susan Rice, Barack Obama, and Michelle Obama, also with control or directives from George Soros? Is this the cabal that is running the United States government? Because a lot of things, we have been saying this consistently, though it's not something new. We were one of the first ones to say this thing right around January 2021, right in the very beginning, when Biden appeared to be not very stable. In fact, yesterday, if you see one of the meetings, Biden is being supported by Chuck Schumer as he's walking out of a building. He's unable to walk on his own. Sridharji, have you seen that video?
I've seen that video. I've also seen the video in Poland where he fell down. I also saw the video as he was climbing up after that lesion, the surgery that he had climbing up. He fell again in the steps. So these three videos are being played out, and he goes up. I don't know who he is looking at. He's looking at somebody and kind of waving. I don't want to, but it is very unfortunate. This person is quite sick. It is not right for us to critique him harshly, but he is cognitively, he seems impaired. Unfortunately, they are not revealing the information, and more of what we see and what we hear is not very healthy, Sriji, in terms of his disposition, as well as who actually running the administration. And we raised this question several times before because of the flip-flop that was going on several policy issues. From Afghanistan onwards, we have been talking about this, but it's coming more and more. And most recent is the present budget, which we're not going to touch. We don't have the time. We'll probably it's only a budget. It's a proposal. We'll talk about that in the next session. But there's a number of issues that we need to discuss as we move forward. But as you rightly pointed out, I have seen it is not a very great situation.
So, viewers, we are going to talk about specific individuals from here on this segment. I mean, at least for a few minutes. And let's start with Secretary of State Blinken. 1988 PhD thesis, that was a disaster. I mean, what he's suggesting there. And now there is more coming his way. Sridharji, what's going on, sir?
Well, the House Judiciary, or one of the House committees, is actually summoning him to brief as to this global disinformation group that is apparently funded by George Soros, and who and how various departmental agencies within the State Department are also supposed to be involved in this. The first revelation came, when we talked about this 42,000 so-called entries who were supposed to be identified as the anti-BJP and anti-Hindutva or pro-Hindutva propagandists, and many of them were common Americans. So
Yes.
this, when they dig deeper, they find that this information group exists, and who is behind it? Is it George Soros who is behind it? This is what they want to know from Mr. State Department doing about it.
And so this is Mr. Blinken. Now let us come to a more juicier information person, which is Hunter Biden. And Biden, President Biden, the then Vice President Biden's links with Burisma, as well as one of the banks out of Ukraine. Sridharji, a lot more revelations coming from that direction too.
They're asking, House Judiciary Committee is asking all those files to be declassified. And they found out many, but here's the two top. This group called Burisma Private Limited, which has some interest in Ukraine in terms of the gas distribution. Apparently, one of the other stakeholders is the Polish president, as per the records that they have seen, which is why they're asking for declassification. So they're saying, if this is the case, what is the connection between Biden, Hunter Biden, and Ukraine as far as this initiative is concerned? How come this has not been made public, which should have been made public when Biden contested? Apparently, in the same kind of documents, they also found that Mr. Hunter Biden had some record of cocaine consumption, which led to his dismissal or exit from when he was a reserve in the Navy. Plus, what else around the Chinese connections? Why this is not being made public, and why this has not been said, and why every attempt has been made to suppress this information? So this is what the declassification is saying. Declassify this file so everybody is aware. And we probably will eventually get behind what exactly is the rationale for this meaningless Ukraine war.
Now, Elise Stefanik wants to know from FBI on Hunter Biden laptop and Mar-a-Lago raid, and was Biden tipped off about the raid that was going to happen on his own house? Even though the DOJ is under the White House administration, they are not supposed to reveal these things, isn't it, Sridharji?
They're not supposed to reveal, and FBI is supposed to act objectively. This is the reason why the Republicans, and even many now in the Democratic Party, are saying the entire government, or the various critical departments within the government, has been weaponized by the present administration, and they are using it against people, or using against anybody who is not aligning with the present thinking on all matters on policy.
Yes, indeed, sir. And let us take a look at the next news item. I have a lot to cover. Former CDC director says COVID-19 more likely came from Chinese lab leak. Sir, how many people have to say this thing? Why doesn't the Reverend Fauci, what is his name? The doctor?
Fauci.
Fauci. Why does he not want to admit the truth? How many more people do we need to stand up and say it came from Wuhan?
Well, there's another declassification, that is being asked for. Dr. Robert Radfield has apparently, what went on during that period of time. What was the discussion? Why those discussions have been suppressed? Why it is not being revealed? Why the information that the COVID originated from Wuhan lab was vehemently suppressed by various departments, from going back from 2020 to 2022, when the truth is to the contrary. And here's Robert Radfield, who's saying that now, of course, you have Energy Department as well as the FBI confirming that it was an accidental leak, it was not an intentional leak, but it is. But Robert Radfield, as per the records, is very specific. He says, when you look at the biology of the specimen of the virus, it seems to have patterns that resemble the 2019 virus that got leaked accidentally from Wuhan. And so therefore, if had Chinese given more information, we probably could have avoided a much more, we probably could have avoided the situation that we were in 2020, 2021, and 2022. But what is going to happen? Let us see. We're going to only get this confirmation. It's basically politics. The damage has already been done.
Sir, the people involved with this are all getting actually, awards now. Emperor Xi is emperor for life. And Fauci roams free, still mouthing, I don't know, untruths, I guess. And nobody seems to be given the responsibility that you are responsible for doing this. That man knew what he knew. Why did he not come out and, it's just crazy, sir. I'm sorry, you want to say something, sir? I have to go to the next topic. Today we have a lot of stuff. Please go ahead, sir.
No, I think I just want to say that I support and endorse your observations on this topic, why he was not held accountable. And he was quite abusive in terms of taking any accountability. Does Xi ever take any accountability? Take any accountability for anything, especially the Communist Party? No, they can do no wrong.
And the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says he needs more money to tackle the border, while senators contemplate sending army across the border to quell growing cartels violence. Sridharji, we have been talking about this. Again, one of the first ones to talk about the dangers of the raw material to create fentanyl being sent from China into Mexico. And now the cartels are fighting amongst themselves to get control of probably the most deadly drug that you can think of, fentanyl. Sridharji, now DHS Mayorkas wants to send troops across to Mexico to try and quell this. Why did he open the gates in the first place? And where is Kamala Harris?
Yes. Sriji, I think Mayorkas says the money that he has is not enough. He has terminated all the people. He needs more money. The senators are saying this is one of the topics that we have not covered. 4 Americans got caught in the crossfire as they went across the border, were possibly tourists. 2 of them were killed in the crossfire between the various drug cartels, and 2 of them were held for ransom and then eventually got released. What they're saying is that all the problems ranging from drugs, illegal and migrants coming in, these other types of criminal rackets, all kinds of illegal activities that are going on is happening in cahoots with cartels. And so therefore, we should send the army right across and to deal with the cartels, and probably to some extent we will even halt the illegals coming in. So this is the senators who are bipartisan senators who are proposing this move, whereas Mr. Mayorkas is not talking about this. He wants more money from the government to deal with the border crisis.
Next, we'll take a look at the appointment of Emperor Xi. He is now the 3rd time leader, next only to Mao Zedong. And there is total and complete control over CCP and China, with his protege, Vice Premier Han Zheng, as the vice president. China is going to move finance and technology under direct party oversight. So whatever we thought that he was tightening his grip on some of the multinational companies and the bigger high-tech companies in China, everything is going to come directly under his oversight. Security already under direct oversight of President Xi Jinping. The core objective is to have CCP complete and total control over state institutions. Sridharji, this doesn't get more, what should I say, dictatorial than this. I just shudder, sir, that whatever good things that Deng Xiaoping did is all being undone in one premiership.
Yeah, there is a saying, 𝙒𝙗𝘗𝙂𝙤𝑉𝑝َرīta I think that is where we are heading as far as Xi Jinping is concerned. He has actually threatened ASEAN that do not take sides with either of the nations, with the two major powers, you will face the consequences. He has brought every aspect of the government directly under the Communist Party. All the key positions are now sitting under the Communist Party. The security and the army is directly under his control. He poses himself and the videos as a PLA commander and encourages the army to do what it needs to do in terms of the Greater China. And somehow the world thinks that this is a person with whom somebody can sanely negotiate and have a meaningful rules-based resolution to the world order. No way. He has strengthened himself as the emperor and the king of the world. And unless there is some internal kind of rebellion and then brings him down, or he faces major consequences in a battle, be it in the line of actual control across India or in Taiwan, he is not going to learn his lesson, Shriji.
Chinese Foreign Minister Mr. Qin Gang warns US about crossing the red line on Taiwan independence. Chinese Foreign Minister has also said that the United States is heading for conflict as it defends Chinese stance on Russia-Ukraine war and close ties with Russia. Secretary Blinken warns China that West would directly target companies with sanctions and restrictions that are assisting Russia in the war against Ukraine. So now US is threatening China that Chinese companies who are found to be assisting Russia will also be imposed sanctions upon.
Indeed, many of them are reliant either on US companies or US trading partners like Japan and South Korea, most notable. All these companies, be it Chinese, be it American, be it Korean, be it Japanese, are going to be restricted from providing supplies, even to do normal business within China. So there is a major proposal, which is bipartisan, supported by both Democrats and Republicans coming, both introduced in the Senate by Marco Rubio. I think that it's Uden who is introduced it in the House, and this will target these companies and put restrictions. So we have already seen this in semiconductor complexes, but it is now extending to broad engineering companies as well, Shriji.
Sir, my bigger concern is how clean is this Biden administration? You have the Secretary of State having some very extremist thoughts about how he can control Western Europe. I mean, Europe should be up, and they must be, screaming at the top of their voice at the kind of his 1988 thesis, Sridharji. This is not something that is being talked about much. But the thing is, the man had some very radical thoughts.
I think which brings us back to, we try to find, Shriji, logical answers to geopolitical questions. We're not going to find a kind of what we call, say, irrational resolution. I think we started by saying that who is running Biden administration? So there is obviously some hidden hand. This is how Ted Cruz began today, which is to say it is not run by Joe Biden, who is actually running Biden administration. Doesn't matter whether it is foreign policy, climate policy, fiscal policy, security policy, immigration, Imetech, doesn't matter. Take any matter. Who is running? Because all we see is inconsistencies and non-coherence. You have Mr. Blinken issue a statement, then you have the National Security Advisor, Jack Sullivan, issuing a different statement. You have the Department of Defense issuing a statement, which is to say that on the Department of Energy and the FBI, then you have Jack Sullivan contradicting it. So you're beginning to see the State Department and the national security in many, many ways, inconsistent, which brings to the core question, which is namely, who is running it and who is directing these people? How come they turn up and one contradicting the other?
Sridharji, they also try to explain this as strategic ambiguity, sir.
They can explain whichever way. I think we as citizens of the world, or citizens of first is United States, we just need to look at this and say, what a mess that we are living in. What a mess across not one matter, but we have seen across every one of these areas. You will see when we discuss the budget, that budget mess that's going to get knocked back straight away. We also, during the process, going to talk about what exactly is hurting United States and why this inflation number is not going to go down. But we'll touch on that another day. But we are in a complete and total mess, region.
Thank you, sir. And now let's take a look at what is happening around Taiwan. If the Taiwan question cannot be handled well, it will shake the very foundation of China-US relations. This is the new foreign minister wants. China seeks an explanation from US and the Taiwanese president Tsai Ing-wen on her transit plans and visit to US and meeting House leader Kevin McCarthy in California, then Taiwan for security reasons. She will travel both to California and New York early April. Washington informed Taiwan that it has approved a package of up to $619 million for equipment and munitions related to F-16s, and it awaits House approval. I take it this is for Taiwan, sir.
Taiwan, yes. So they have already approved F-16s, which will become the battle flank on air to defend against the Chinese invasion. I think we covered in one of the DGIs already. Japan and South Korea, most notably Japan, has been doing the simulation planning. If there is an attack, what would be the response from the so-called US-Japan forces in concert with Taiwan, and what would be the consequences out of it? So I think they are getting ready for the eventual Taiwanese war. According to the reports, which others can validate, 2027 apparently is the main battle line. There is a special that has been set up within the Xi Jinping administration around how they will deal with Taiwan invasion and integration of Taiwan. So I think that everybody is getting ready. In the meanwhile, the Taiwanese president is making her rounds. She has been told that there will be catastrophic consequences if Kevin McCarthy lands in Taiwan. So he has decided not to travel to Taiwan, and he will meet the Taiwanese president as she enters United States in California before she makes her way into New York. So that decision has been, it's early April, whereas the Chinese are raising hue and cry and saying they want to know what exactly she wants to discuss and what is this transit plan in terms of meeting the House Majority Leader.
Sridharji, Representative Gooden is going to be rolling out a measure to re-establish the DOJ's Trump-era China initiative. This will augment the Marco Rubio and Rick Scott Senate bill that would protect U.S. national interests and security threats. The White House offers support to U.S. Senate bill that could lead to complete ban of TikTok. China likely on NATO agenda for limitless Russia ties, says Lithuania. Sir, what India could accomplish in overnight to ban 132 Chinese-based software app, the US is still struggling, sir. That is the hard and reality of this whole thing.
Dysfunctional democracy. We are living in a dysfunctional democracy in United States. At least now we have some hope with the divided government, with a razor-thin Senate majority to the Democrats, but more and more the middle Democrats are aligning with the Republicans in opposing any of these moves that are coming out from Biden. But for surprise, the Biden administration is now towing both House and Senate proposals, be it on Chinese companies, be it on TikTok, be it on... Its only thing is it has taken a long time for this to happen. It didn't happen when there was a unified government. Now they are saying that there's no way. So the acrimony or the antagonism between the Chinese and the US has now stepped up for reasons unknown, probably most notable reason being Chinese open alignment with Russia. If China had not aligned with Russia, what would be the situation in the US-China relationship is hard to speculate and predict. But clearly the Chinese aligning with Russia is clearly pushing the US, particularly the Biden administration, in a diametrically antagonistic manner, Shriji.
Yes, indeed. And viewers, we are now going to start talking about India-related news. Another request to like this video. This needs to go viral because, again, things that are not yet hitting the MSM, we're going to reveal a lot of stuff. To start with, 𝙒𝙧𝙤𝙪𝙥𝙥, the embattled ambassador nominee to India, to have a Senate vote this week, 600 plus days after nomination. The US Commerce Secretary supports India's aspirations of achieving semiconductor supply chain. Let's talk about 𝙒𝙧𝙤𝙪𝙥𝙥, sir. Why did the Senate hold up for 600 days? This is a democratic Senate.
Basically, because both Democrats and Republicans opposed his chief of staff is supposed to have Rick Jacobs, I think, is supposed to have had misdemeanor and behavior with the chief of communications of Garcetti during his tenure. And he allowed this to not only happen, but to remain silent, cast aspersions on his character. And hence, both Democrats and Republicans held up and saying that this guy is not the right nominee. 600 plus days. Of course, we've been distracted by so many other things. India is supposed to be a strategic ally to United States, yet there's no ambassador.
Very strange. US intelligence warns of risky confrontation between India and China at the line of actual control and reports that Prime Minister Modi will respond to any threats from across the border, unlike the past. Australia, India to collaborate on security matters in Indo-Pacific and expand bilateral cooperation. Prime Minister Modi raises attacks on Hindu temples by Khalistan activists across Australia. This is something that is new. And again, we cannot keep saying that Khalistan is getting funding from Pakistan anymore because Pakistan itself is bankrupt. I think Khalistan has found other places of funding. First of all, the mindset has to change. I don't understand why somebody who's actually Hindu has these kinds of extreme thoughts. That's just my 2 cents. Please go ahead.
No, I think that effectively this is a US intelligence report or US what we call security report, which they released looking at the geopolitical situation. They're very clear that there is a looming disaster or a looming clash, and which is at a high melting point, given that both sides, India and China, have a very strong footprint of equipment and men lined up in the border. And both sides don't want to, no negotiation. I mean, I don't know how many rounds of negotiations have happened. It has not resulted in an amicable resolution. So I think accident and that could trigger into what we saw in Galwan and what we saw in 𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤, and skirmishes of that nature to prop up. They have also stated that Modi ji is not like the past prime ministers of India. If there's any kind of threat from across the border, there will be a reaction, as we saw in the case of Balkot, is the second report that has come out. But they expect at least some sanity between India and Pakistan to not to escalate the situation. So this is the report that is coming out. Most notably on the LAC, it is also, they have also stated that the US will help and side with India should there be an escalation across the border.
And viewers, do watch my conversation with Sumit Peer that aired about 24 hours ago yesterday about the on-the-ground situation in Pakistan and how China is planning to use the fertile agriculture land of Punjab in Pakistan for its own food production needs. And what's going to happen with the local population, we don't know. Very scary situation as Pakistan goes deeper and deeper into a debt spiral. Sridharji, let's take a look at Russia-Ukraine news. US says that intel indicates pro-Ukrainian groups were involved in the sabotaging of the Nord Stream pipeline, but no direct Ukrainian government involvement. More Ukrainian groups claim raids on Russian soil, and the Ukraine disowns them, and Putin calls them terrorists. So this there was a story by Seymour Hersh that it was actually US that destroyed the Nord Stream pipeline. Now, people have, of course, the White House has said that that's all a lot of bunkum, but Hersh has a mixed bag in terms of reliability, isn't it, sir?
He does. He does. This is an, if you recall that when this happened, especially the Scandinavian countries, it was very close to that terrain. They immediately launched an investigation. So Germany, Sweden, and Finland have been conducting the investigation, and what they have discovered is that either pro-Ukrainian or Ukrainian sympathizers amongst Russians sabotage this. This is the initial intelligence that is coming out. If that is the case, it's very worrying. And they're saying, it's got nothing to do with Ukraine. So it begs the question whether any of these people who have antagonistic Russian views, whether they sabotaged and tried to put the blame on the Russians. So Russians are, ramping up their ante and saying, you destroyed and you killed. So my economic outcomes, which impacted as a result of this burst of this pipe and the money that we spent, and what are we going to do? And you are trying to blame me when your own investigations find out that's not us, but some of the groups within Ukraine. So this is a very big story that will come out as the revelations are made public, Shriji.
And sir, this Russian dissenter Navalny, what is the latest on that? He got poisoned on his way to Germany, if I remember correctly, and then he came back to Russia. I think as soon as he landed in Russia, he was imprisoned. This was 2-3 years ago. What is the latest on that, sir?
Nothing. In the fog of war, there's no information. He's probably suffering and going through, and soon we'll have information that comes. So we are now on an information blackout. Nothing has come out. The world is much more focused on what this situation between Russia, Ukraine, and some of this issue. So all these people, who were the rebels who were anti-Russian, what is happening to some anti-regime in Russia? What's happening to them? No information, Shriji. It's all kind of blacked out. There's also another, we touched on last DGI, but to recap, there's another rumor that there's also a lot of, much more right-wing Russians who are not satisfied with Putin, and they are trying to see whether there is intelligence says that whether there is a coup possible in Russia, which may even push Russia towards a more aggressive situation. If you have not followed, we saw in the last 24 hours hypersonic missiles and attacks launched by Russia into Ukraine, causing damage to a large segments of infrastructure, including death of about 6 civilians.
Yes, indeed, sir. Thank you so much. And now the most important thing, Middle East news. As the Iranian nuclear program intensifies, IAEA inspectors rush to put an inspection program. US and Israel are wary. And Israel Prime Minister reserves the right to do preemptive launches against Iranian nuclear installations as deterrence. Before I proceed further, viewers, I want to give you a heads up. There's going to be a conversation with Desh Kapoor of 𝙤𝙤𝙤𝘀 tomorrow, most likely around 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the morning. We will release that conversation because that talks about the origins of the Iranian atomic enrichment program. Where did they start? It all goes back to one 𝙤𝙤𝙤𝘀, guys, and I don't want to tell you where that 𝙤𝙤𝙤𝘀 resides, but do watch that program. It talks about North Korea, China, Pakistan, Iran, and one other country that you're going to be surprised as to how this country got involved in all this stuff. So, Sridharji, take it away, sir.
Well, I think we are looking at the flashpoints of the world. The IAEA got involved because they found enriched uranium activity going on in Iran. So they wanted to de-escalate the situation. All of a sudden, when the world is lost, you saw this regime engaging with IAEA, engaging with Iran to put cameras and other kinds of things. Israel is very closely watching the situation, and Israel has said that you can go on doing what you want, but we have much stronger intelligence. We reserve the right to launch preemptive strikes and take out By the way, they also did a raid on the Aleppo airport and took out much of the Aleppo airport about 3-4 days ago because of a lot of Iranian surrogates as well as the Hezbollah issues in terms of equipment being sent from there into West Bank.
Well, that brings us to a close of today's DGI. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Do we have any questions? I don't think so. I thought there was one or two, but I think most of them have been answered in the course of our conversation today, Sridharji. As always, sir, a pleasure listening to you. And there's one question here. Rahul Rathod wants to know, can Indian economy become 3.7 trillion USD in 2023 and 4 trillion USD in 2024? Your thoughts on it, sir?
FY23, March 31st, which India will cross $3.5 trillion as FY23 is, I think it's April 1st to March 31st. The growth for the projected growth for Indian economy for FY24 is about 6.2%. So India will add, probably another 200 to 220 billion in the FY24 calendar year, which means it will take it somewhere close to 3.75 to 3.8 trillion as Modi ji enters elections in FY24. Just to give you some numbers, when Modi ji took over, I think in 2014, the Indian economy was around 2 trillion or just less than 2 trillion, 1.8 trillion. So close to $2 trillion would have been added in a span of 10 years. When you actually take a look between 1990 to 2010, 1990 to 2010, India went from $320 billion to about $1.4 trillion. It is, or 1.2, $1.3 trillion. It is called as the lost decades of the malignancy that prevailed in the Indian economy. So whatever Dr. Raghuram Rajan says about Hindu rate of growth, he has to look at the charts and reinforce himself as to the relative growth around the specific periods. I mentioned 1990 because 1990, 1991, the greatest finance minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, is supposed to have launched the liberalization and economic programs. But all the economies around the world, most notably Indian, will tell you India missed the golden opportunity to push its economy forward when around the same time it was almost on par with China.
Next question from Trey Jones. Please comment on the potential for US-India conflict due to de-dollarization efforts by the BRICS Plus.
No, there is no India-US conflict. No, India has got 65%. Well, BRICS, they can, I don't know. I don't want to comment on the BRICS part. India has got a very strong and very good strategic relationship. Much of the $350 billion IT and IT services exports comes from, a good chunk comes from the West. The bilateral trade, India is, US is either number one or number two partner, depending on which day you wake up. They have strategic arrangements around the cyber security, the supply chains on the semiconductor complexes. So, I mean, I don't know who is speculating there is going to be a US-India conflict. No, there's not going to be a US-India conflict, sorry.
And Krishna Kumar wants to know, thoughts on Silicon Valley Bank had to sell their MBS. We covered it, Krishna Kumar. Just watch this video. We have covered this in detail right at the very beginning. And Sridharji, let's call this a wrap because we're already 43 minutes into the program. Viewers, there is one more program coming at 9 p.m. IST. This is about fake currency, about how many people who are actually mules, carriers, enablers, whatever you want to call them, these people are roaming freely today under the Modi administration. We want to ask the question, what is the Modi government doing about some of these traitors? So that will be the question that will be answered by RVS Money at 9 p.m. IST. Don't miss that one. As always, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notification. Sridharji, what a pleasure, sir. Today's was a goldmine of information. We've had the highest viewerships, in my opinion, in many, many days on DGI today. We will continue to do this. We'll be back next Monday. Thank you once again, sir. Namaskar.
Thank you. Namaskar. Have a wonderful day.